Hey guys, my name's Matt and welcome to a very special new series here on Game Gengo, the Japanese Breakdown series. This is kind of a successor of the Final Fantasy VII Remake series where we break down all of the language in a certain scene so that you can go from 0 to 100% understanding no matter what level Japanese you are. However, the difference with this scene is that we're going to be going through a whole range of different games, focusing on a scene in any particular game. Now, we're going to be learning all of the language in that scene, so you can go from knowing nothing to knowing everything, but we're also going to have these special key pieces of language that we're really going to focus on that are key to the concept of the scene. These pieces are going to be very visually connected to the actual scene itself, so hopefully you can manage to build a much stronger connection to the actual scene with each of the pieces of language used. These key pieces of language, I'm going to go through a much more kind of deep dive breakdown of these pieces of language so that you can get the most understanding possible by the end of the video. The way the video is structured is quite simple. First, we're going to have an immersion section. This section will play about a 2 to 3 minute scene all in Japanese. There will be no English, okay? Now, if you're a beginner, please don't worry. There will be a breakdown afterwards. Just use this as a chance to get some listening practice as well as try and test your ability and see if there's any words that you can point out that you know. This is aimed for you to improve your listening skills as well as to test your current Japanese knowledge and also show you what you're going to be learning in this video. So find that as a really good chance to immerse in the Japanese. Now, during this section, there will be certain words that are highlighted. We will have purple for adjectives, green for verbs, blue for nouns, and red for adverbs. Now, what this is actually showing is this is those key pieces of language that I mentioned earlier, the real crucial stuff to kind of conceptualize this scene. Those are the pieces of language that we're going to be going through a real deep dive for. We're obviously going to cover everything as well, but that's what's going to get the real special treatment, real special deep explanations for. Now, after the immersion section, we'll then have the breakdown section. This is where we go through all of the language in the sentence, as well as the more deeper dives, and then we'll also have some audio playback of the scene to really help your listening skills. So the general aim is that no matter what level you are, you should be able to pick up some Japanese here and there, whether you pick up absolutely everything if you're a beginner, or if you can pick up on some more stronger nuances in the language and how it's used in different contexts if you're a kind of middle to upper higher level student. So without further ado, let's get the Japanese Breakdown series started.
よかった。目覚めた？
あんたは？
エアリス。名前エアリス。
クラウドだ。
また会えたね。
そうだったか？
え？覚えてないの？ほら、お花。
ああ、花売りの。ここは？
スラムの教会、5番街。いきなり落ちてくるんだもん。驚いちゃった。お花畑、クッションになったかな？うん、いいね。
あんたの花か。悪かったな。
気にしないで。お花結構強いし、ここ特別な場所だから。ねえクラウド、これ落としたよ。
ああ。
私も持ってるんだ。
マテリアなんて珍しくもなんともない。
でも私のは特別だって、何の役にも立たないの。
使い方を知らないだけだろ。
そうかもね。でもそれでもいいの。身につけてると安心できるし、お母さんが残してくれた。 ねえ、せっかくの再会だから少しお話しする？大丈夫かな？
Okay, so starting here at Chapter 8, the beginning of Chapter 8 in Final Fantasy VII Remake, Cloud has just fallen down from a Mako reactor and fallen straight through the roof of the church here, and we have this girl asking him if he's alright, and she says, 大丈夫かな? So kana here is kind of a way of showing some guess, right? Like, are you okay? Or I guess you're okay. Here it's kind of asking a question, you know, are you alright? 大丈夫 here, we can see the English translation being alright. However, it's a little bit more than that. It's a little bit more of a complicated piece of language. So let's have a look at a deeper breakdown of 大丈夫. So here we have 大丈夫, and this can be an adjective, a na adjective, to show that something is safe, secure, problem-free, and okay. So the first definition here in the Japanese, it says 危なげがなく安心できる様。強くてしっかりしている様。So what this means is that something is in the state of not being dangerous and you can be relieved, or it's very strong and sturdy. For example, here in this example sentence, 病人はもう大丈夫だ. This means that a patient is already okay. So perhaps the patient was in a condition where, you know, they weren't okay. Now they are. So we can see that it does have a very similar meaning here with okay, but it also has this kind of feeling of something being sturdy, safe, and secure. Now, one thing to be careful of with this piece of language, we can actually see that 大丈夫 can be both a way of agreeing or disagreeing. It can be showing that something's necessary or unnecessary, something is possible or impossible. So it's quite a tricky little piece of language. If you were to go to a cash register, for example, in Japan, and someone were to ask you, do you want a plastic bag? And you just said, 大丈夫, they would not know whether you mean yes or no. You need to have a little bit more to the sentence in order to show whether it's yes, it's okay, or no, it's okay. Like here in these example sentences. That looks pretty heavy. Should I hold it for you?
重そうですね。持ちましょうか?
No, it's okay.
いえ、大丈夫です。
Or, I would like to get changed, but is that okay?
試着したいのですが、大丈夫ですか?
Yes, that's okay.
はい、大丈夫です。
So we can see that this piece of language is both for confirming something or for showing that something isn't necessary. Now, in this context with Aerith, it's pretty clear that she's asking, are you okay? The first definition. So she's saying, you know, are you without any sort of danger? Are you without any sort of injury, right? Are you all right? Because he did, after all, fall all the way from the Mako reactor in the previous chapter.
大丈夫かな？よかった。目覚めた？
So she says, yokatta. Now, yokatta is actually the past form of e. That means good. So literally it would be was good. What this is showing is that something that happened is good that it happened. It was good. Referring here to him waking up. Me sameta. Now, if we have a look here at this expression, me ga sameru. In this example with Aerith talking, she dropped the ga particle, but it's the same use here. It's showing that you have woken up. Now, the first definition here is nemuri kara sameru, to wake up from slumber or sleep. For example, tori no koe de me ga sameru. You wake up by the sound of birds chirping. The next definition here is to show that you have actually kind of awakened yourself from kind of hesitation or being lost in some way. Perhaps you were living in a way that was misguided or, you know, in trouble, and now you're back on the right path. So to kind of come to one's senses. So it's really interesting how this piece of language has two different uses, both to literally wake up or to kind of wake up, right? To come to one's senses. Quite similar to English where you wake up, right? You can wake up from sleep or wake up from, you know, some sort of confusion or being lost in life. So very, 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 very similar here. Now, obviously in this context, Aerith isn't, you know, asking if he's back on the right track in life or something. She's saying, did you wake up? Or here, you know, wake up from unconsciousness, right? Very similar thing.
よかった。目覚めた？
あんたは?
And so finally Cloud replies with, あんたは? Who are you? Now, this is a very difficult sentence for beginners of Japanese to approach because There is no who in this sentence. Anta is a casual way of saying anata, right? You have anata, anta, casual speech, you, and then wa is as for. So as for you, what is he referring to? He's actually dropping a whole bunch of the sentence off. He says, Anta wa dare desu ka? Who are you? But it's clear in this context that he doesn't know who she is. She's talking to him, and so his natural first response would be, who the hell are you, right? Who are you? So here that's what he says. Anta wa, as for you, as in, who are you?
あんたは
エアリス。名前、エアリス。
And so she replies with Aerith. Namae Aerith. So, Aerith, my name is Aerith. Now, one interesting thing to note about this response right here is that Aerith does not use any particles or pronouns. She's again being very casual. So, Aerith, name Aerith is literally what she said. In casual Japanese, you will often see a lot of things being dropped, and even in normal Japanese, you'll definitely see things being dropped like the use of pronouns. She did not say, Watashi no namae wa Aerith, right? That would be what you typically learn in a textbook. However, people don't usually actually speak in that way. Because Cloud pointed his question at Aerith, it's clear that she's talking about herself with her response, so she doesn't need to say watashi wa. In Japanese, it's only used when you're really wanting to put highlight on something, emphasis on something, say as for me, or as for, right, that kind of situation. So here, it's clear we're talking about Aerith, so she doesn't need the pronoun, and because she's speaking casually, she just drops the particle as well. Now, name here is namae. Now, this piece of language is very, very useful for you to know, and you can use this in a whole bunch of different ways. You could say, for example, someone's name. That would be dun 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 no namae. For example, boku no namae, my name, kare no namae, his name, and so on. We can also see namae, for example, used to name someone. Dun 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 ni namae o tsukeru. To literally attach a name to someone, to name someone. So maybe you name a dog or a child or something like that. So, Aerith. My name's Aerith.
エアリス。名前、エアリス。
クラウドだ
And here Cloud responds with, I'm Cloud. Kuraudo da. So, another interesting piece of language here. Cloud does not use pronouns again. He did not say, Watashi wa Kuraudo da. He did not say, Watashi no namae wa Kuraudo da. He just says, Kuraudo da. Because it's really obvious that's what they're talking about. And in Japanese, you don't always state the obvious. That's why it kind of sometimes appears like this language has hidden language behind it, because it's a bit weird to keep on stating the obvious. It's obvious we're talking about who are you, and it's obvious we're talking about names because Aerith just introduced her name. So what's the natural thing to happen next? Him to reply with his. So Cloud doesn't need to use pronouns or talk about names because it's clear that's what he's talking about. So he just says, Kuraudo da. I'm Cloud.
クラウドだ
また会えたね。
So Aerith replies with, we're able to meet again, huh? So mata means again, so showing the fact that they've already met sometime in the past. Ne is kind of a way of showing confirmation, right? She's wanting to get his confirmation. Oh, we were able to meet again, and ao here is to meet. Now, as we can see, there are two uses. We have to face each other, face to face, right? To actually meet in that way. And we can also have to meet a person by chance. So here in this second example, to meet someone by chance definitely seems to be the use here with Aerith. Now, one thing to note is that this verb ao is seen here as aeta. This is the past potential form of ao, to meet, turning it into we were able to meet. Right, so aeru, to be able to meet, aeta, were able to meet. So she's saying that, look, we're able to meet again. Now, this piece of language does show that she's a little bit happy about them meeting again because she says we're able to meet again. You wouldn't normally use that with people that you're not happy to see, so it shows that she's happy to see him, right? Oh, we're able to see each other again.
また会えたね。
そうだったか
Is that so? So datta ka? So here, Cloud is showing that he doesn't remember. Soda is to say that's the way it is, right? So desu ne, that's how it is, right? But so datta is that's how it was, and then we have it in a question. So is that how it was? Is that so? So he's saying we met? Did we meet, right? So datta ka? Is that so?
そうだったか。
え、覚えてないの？
Oh, and poor Aerith, she's like, oh, you don't remember? Oboite nai no. So oboeru is to remember something, and then we have oboite nai means that you aren't remembering something, you don't remember something, and then we have this no question particle at the end of the sentence. This is just like the ka question particle, but this just makes it a little bit softer. If she said oboite nai ka, it's whoa, it's very, very strong. So oboite nai no, much more softer. And again, because it's clear we're talking about Cloud here, there is no need to say anta wa oboite nai no, because we know she's talking about Cloud's action, so she just says don't remember, as in you don't remember.
え、覚えてないの？ほら、お花。
Look, flowers! So here she's trying to jog his memory, right? Flowers, come on, look, flowers! Trying to get, come on, remember? Flowers, me, flowers. So hora is a way of being like, look. And you can see with her hands, she actually says that, hora, right? So look, and then she says ohana. Hana by itself just means flower. So what's this o doing here? So o here is used in front of nouns to show a level of politeness. So in this way, it's kind of a form of beautification, bikago. It's kind of an elegant way of talking. So it shows that Aerith is being a little bit more eloquent. She's not so rude and just saying hana. She's saying a little bit more nicer, a little bit more softer, or hana. And this will often be done both as a form of being polite or just trying to be a little bit more elegant. So, look, flowers.
ほら、お花。
ああ、花売りの。
Ah, the flower vendors. Ah, hana uri no. So is just o, and then hana uri. Hana is flower. Uru is a verb to sell, so hana uri, a flower vendor, someone who sells flowers, and then this no particle is actually showing possession. These flowers are the flowers of the flower vendor, right? So he's kind of making that connection. Oh, right, you're a flower vendor. I saw you in the streets. Oh, it's all coming together in his head.
ああ、花売りの。あ、ここは？
And just like Cloud, he says, where are we? But in a very casual way. Koko wa? So here, again, a little bit difficult for a complete beginner, there's a whole part of the sentence that's just completely missing. In the textbooks, you might see this sentence as koko wa doko desu ka? However, he doesn't say doko desu ka because it's clear that he is confused. He doesn't know where he is. He just fell down from the roof and he's looking around, koko wa? So it's very clear that he's asking, as for this place, where are we?
ここは？
スラムの教会、5番街。
And so Aerith replies here with, it's the Sector 5 Slums Church. So Suramu is the slums, Gobangai is Sector 5, but this bit of language in the center, the church, this is where they are, Kyokai. Now if we have a look here, Kyokai, meaning church, is the place that they're in, right? The building that they're in. This is the same as, for example, if you were to get married at a church in kind of a Western culture, for example, or even in Japan, this is the word there. Kyokai. Now, if we have a look at the structure of this actual word, the breakdown of the kanji being used, the first kanji is often seen with words like oshieru, to teach someone something, and then the second kanji is used when meeting, like kai or ao. So here we can see that it's to meet to teach, a teach meeting, as in a place that you meet for religious teachings, a church. So that's kind of the origins of how this word is formed, kyokai. So that's exactly where they are. They're in the Sector 5 Slums Church.
スラムの教会、5番街。いきなり落ちてくるんだもん。驚いちゃった。
You suddenly came falling down. I was surprised. So first here in red we have the adverb ikinari. And we can see ikinari actually has some kanji at the very top. Now, this kanji is not often used, so you don't need to memorize it. However, it might help you in maybe learning the formation of this word, where it came from in the beginning, but we're not going to go into too much detail because that's not so important. What is important is here seeing that ikinari is an adverb, which means that it comes before a verb, and it means to suddenly do that verb or have that verb happen without advanced warning. Just like we saw right here, Cloud falling through the roof without any advanced warning that he was going to do that. And so that's why we see here ikinari, something happening suddenly. Next, we have ochite kuru. Now, ochiru is the verb to fall, and then te kuru is a piece of grammar to say to come to do that verb. So he came to fall, right? He's come to fall. The action showing that the action has come closer to Aerith, right? He was far away and he came closer, right? She's down there, he was up there, he came to fall down. So if we have a look at the Japanese definition of this ochiru. Now, ochiru is the verb for falling. If we have a look at the Japanese definition, we can see that ue kara, from above, shita e, down below, shizen ni, naturally, mata, as well as kyū ni, suddenly, idō suru, to move. So to move suddenly by gravity from up to down, as in to fall. So you suddenly came falling down. Now the last little bit of this sentence is ndamon. Now nda is just the same as noda. This is used to show some level of explanation. So she's explaining something, and then mon is to show, to add some emotional emphasis to whatever she's saying. So she's like, you suddenly came down, right? That emphasis is not just, you suddenly came down. She's not just stating the fact, she's being emotional about it. That's what that mon there is doing. So, you suddenly came falling down. Odoroichatta. I was surprised. So, odoroku is just the verb to surprise, and then odoroichatta is actually the past chao form of this verb. The chao form is often used to show either regret for an action or to do something completely. Now, I think in this situation, it's pretty obvious that it's, I was completely surprised, right? You just completely surprised, like mouth open, that type of thing. And so that's here, odoroichatta.
いきなり落ちてくるんだもん。驚いちゃった。お花畑、クッションになったかな。
Now this next line is quite interesting. Here she says, I guess the flower bed acted as a cushion. So, ohana batake, cushion ni natta kana. So, ohana we know is flower, batake or hatake, but when you combine it, it turns into batake. Hatake is the word that you use when you talk about a field, often a field that you grow something on. If you imagine rice fields or, fields with crops, that type of thing, that is what a hatake is. So hana batake is a flower field or a flower bed. Then we have at the end kana, so again we see this kind of wonder for something, but the real interesting part here is in the middle, kushon ni natta. So kushon is the katakana Japanese way of saying a cushion, and then ni naru is to become something. So literally it would be the flower bed became a cushion, I guess, but this is actually a really interesting piece of language, this ni naru. So if we have a look right here, ni naru is used after something to show that it has become that, turned out that way, ended up that way, or to act as a certain role or function. So if we have a look at the Japanese definition, to change into a different state or form than it was previously, like seen here with water turning into ice, or it becoming night. You can see that there was a previous state and then it turned into this new state. Just like here with Aerith's flower bed, it was previously just a flower bed, but it is now turned into a cushion for Cloud to fall into. So we can see that it's kushon ni natta. It became a cushion, or it acted as a cushion for Cloud's fall.
お花畑、クッションになったかな。うん、いいね。
You've got good luck, huh? Un I ne. So un is just the word for luck. I, as we already know, means good, and then ne is a way of kind of getting that confirmation. So you got good luck, huh?
うん、いいね。
あんたの花か。悪かったな。
They're your flowers? Oh, my bad. So, anta no hana ka warukatta na. So, anta, as we know, is anata, you, your with the no particle, hana is flowers, and then ka is a question. So, they're your flowers, huh? And then warukatta. This is an interesting piece of language because if you look at it literally, was bad, doesn't really make sense, right? However, this is actually really close to the English expression my bad, right? It's kind of more of a casual expression that you'd use. You wouldn't use this with your boss, right? You wouldn't say my bad. You wouldn't say warukata, right? It's very, very similar to that expression, my bad. So it's showing that he did something and he's apologetic for it. It was his bad. He did something that was bad, right? So my bad or I'm sorry.
あんたの花か悪かった
気にしないで
Don't worry about it. 気にしないで. So 気にする is to be concerned about something, and then it's in the しないで form, which is asking someone not to do something, so don't worry about it. 気にしないで.
気にしないでお花結構強いしここ特別な場所だから
The flowers are pretty strong because here is a special place. So ohana, the flowers, kekko means considerably, fairly, and then suioi means strong. Finishing off here with a she particle, this is just showing some sort of list for reasons. So look, the flowers are pretty strong, dun dun dun, because here is a special place. Koko, here, and then our first word that we're going to be breaking down is tokubetsu. So tokubetsu is the na adjective for something to be special or extraordinary. In the Japanese definition, it says for something to be clearly distinguishable from others, and for the degree of a thing's state or nature to be outstanding. So if we have a look at these two examples, tokubetsu na or tokubetsu no junbi. So special preparation. So maybe you're doing something that requires a special level of preparation for. The next one is kyou wa tokubetsu atsui. So this means that today is extraordinarily hot, right? It distinguishes itself from other days. Today is a particularly hot day. Then we have this interesting piece of language, basho. Now this is a really useful and early piece of language for learners to learn. Now we can see that there are two different meanings that this word has. It can be the place or location of something, as well as room or space for something. So a place where something exists or takes place, like in these two examples, yakusoku no basho. This means the place that was promised. So maybe we promised to meet somewhere, that is the place that we promised, that is yakusoku no basho. Or we can see that it's actually the space for something, like tateru basho mo nai. There isn't any space for standing. So here it's more talking about space. Now in this use, it's clear that it's the first definition here talking about a place rather than space. Here, Aerith says, here is a special place. Tokubetsu na basho. So the place they're in is very, very special. And then dakara means after all. It's showing that she's explaining something, and here is that because, after all, that type of explanation.
お花結構強いしここ特別な場所だからねえクラウドこれ落としたよ
Then Aerith says, Ne, Cloud, kore otoshita yo. So, hey Cloud, you dropped this. So, ne is clearly something that Aerith used quite a lot to kind of get attention. Hey, ne, Cloud, this, kore otoshita. Now, otoshita, if you pay close attention, actually has the same kanji as one of the words we just previously learned, ochiru. So if we have a look here, otosu is to drop something. Now, the Japanese definition is almost word for word exactly the same as the definition for ochiru, and the only difference is at the very end. Ue kara shita e shizen ni mata kyū ni idō saseru. Now this means to make something move with or without intention, to make that move naturally from above to below. So where we saw in the example where Cloud fell, well, no one pushed him, he just fell, so it was ochiru. But here, something actually dropped from his pocket. Here, Aerith is talking about the fact that maybe Cloud was holding it and then he dropped it, right? It actually was based on the action that Cloud did, and so here it's drop. Just like in English, right? If you think about the difference between fall and drop, really the only difference is fall is just talking about the state of it, drop is talking about someone doing that action, whether intentionally or not. So here it's dropping the materia. So here you can see he's dropped the materia. Hey, Cloud, you dropped this.
ねえクラウド、これ落としたよ。
あ
私も持ってるんだ。
And then Aerith says, I've also got one. Now, something that's very interesting here is this time Aerith does use a pronoun. Have a look. Watashi mo. I also. Why does she use a pronoun here but not in any of the other sentences? The reason why is because it's not clear who she's talking about. Why? Because she's talking about Cloud dropping a material. The natural response from that isn't that she also has one, right? Like with names, we saw that, right? My name's Matt. The natural thing to happen is, what's your name, right? So you don't need a pronoun in that situation. But in this situation, you do, because it's not clear that Aerith also has one. She's bringing it up. As for me also, watashi mo motteru nda. I also have one. The nda we already know is a way of explaining something, it is that, but the motteru here means to hold something or to possess something. So we can see here, motsu, to hold or to possess. For example, you could hold a pen in your hand, pen o motsu. Or you could possess a holiday home, besso o motsu. So it can both be to physically hold something or to hold something within your possession. Here, Aerith is clearly talking about her possession. She's not holding it in her hand, but she possesses it on her head. So she shows her head and she says, look, I've also got one. Watashi mo motteru nda.
私も持ってるんだ。
マテリアなんて珍しくもなんともない。
Cloud's not impressed, and he says things like materia aren't rare at all. And so he says, materia nante mezurashiku mo nanto mo nai. So materia is the materia, right, that we're talking about here. Nante is a very interesting piece of language that means things like. Mezurashi means rare. However, it's in the mezurashiku mo. This is showing that it's connected to another negative sentence to say it is not rare. Mezurashiku mo nanto mo nai. Nanto nai here is put to this negative sentence. We have double negatives here, but it's actually just to say that something isn't rare at all, right? That at all feeling with that double negative. So something is not rare at all. Materia nante. Things like materia. So nante is an interesting expression. It means such a thing as. Now, there are two kind of different definitions here for this nante. There are many other definitions, but here these are the ones that are closest to what's being currently used in this context. Now, the first one is to give an example of something and make it equal to the following thing. So, Tanaka nante hito shiranai. So, a guy like Tanaka or a person such as Tanaka, I don't know, right? So, a person such as this, right? It's equaling those two things, or it could make light of something by giving an example of it. For example, honki ni suru nante baka ne. So to take it seriously, you're an idiot, huh? So to do such a thing as take it seriously. So in this example, Cloud is referring to the materia and he's saying things like materia are equal to the same as not being rare at all. Such a thing like materia, it's not rare, right? The dime a dozen, there's lots of materia.
マテリアなんて珍しくもなんともない。
でも私のは特別。
But then Aerith responds with, however, mine's special. Demo, watashi no wa tokubetsu. So demo is however. This time she uses a pronoun again. Why does she do that? Because she's really highlighting that mine is special. Mine is tokubetsu. So again, use pronouns when you're wanting to make a highlight of something, you're really wanting to add emphasis that you're the case, but you don't use it when it's clear.
でも私のは特別。だって何の役にも立たないの。
That's because mine is completely useless. Datte, nan no yaku ni mo tatanai no. So datte is kind of a way of saying cause. Nan no is often attached to other negative parts of a sentence to say not at all. And then yaku ni mo tatanai means to be completely useless. So it's not at all useful, it's completely useless. Now, if we have a look here at this expression, yaku ni mo tatanai. So yaku ni tatsu means for something to be useful or helpful. Yaku ni mo tatanai, the mo here is adding emphasis. So it's even more. It's not even serving any use, right? It's more than just not serving a use. That's what the mo particle is doing. So not even serving a use, and then nanno means not at all, nothing at all. So it's not serving any use whatsoever. Oh, a whole bunch of emphasis here in this sentence, really to show something is completely useless. Which is the case here with Aerith's materia. She says it has absolutely no use, you can't even use it whatsoever, it's completely useless. Nan no yaku ni mo tatanai. But she finishes off this sentence with a not particle. This is interesting because this is actually different from the not particle that we saw previously, which was a question. This time it's actually a feminine sentence ender that is a way of kind of being just like da, but it's a little bit more softer. Because as we saw, the no actually makes it a bit soft. And so this is a way of softening the sentence. She's explaining that hers is completely useless.
だって何の役にも立たないの。
使い方を知らないだけだろ。
You just don't know how to use it, right? 使い方を知らないだけだろ. So 使い方 is the way of using it. を知らない. So the を particle is showing what you don't 知らない, what you don't know. So you don't know how to use it. だけ, that's all it is. だろう, right? So it's just that you don't know how to use it, right?
使い方を知らないだけだろ。
そうかもね。
That might be right. そうかもね. So そうだ, as we know, is to say that's the way it is. そうかも is that might be the way it is. So かも here is showing that level of uncertainty. So that might be the way it is. そうかもね. And then ne is showing that confirmation. So that might be right, you know.
そうかもね。でも、それでもいいの。
However, even so, it's okay. でも、それでもいいの. So demo, however, それでも means even so, even if that's the case. いいの, I means good. And again, we see this no particle here, and this is explaining that it's okay. But it's just a little bit more of a softer way of explaining.
でも、それでもいいの。身につけてると安心できるし、お母さんが残してくれた。
When it's attached to me, it makes me feel relieved. So this is a very interesting piece of language here. We have 身につけてると. So 身につける is to attach something to someone. 身 is your body, oneself. つける is to attach or to put on. So to put it on yourself. To wear or to put something on. However, it's followed by と. Now, when a verb is followed by the と particle, it says when that action is done, the next following thing is a result or effect because of that action. As in, when you do something, dun dun dun, also happens. Like here in this example sentence. 写真を見ると, so when you see the photo, whenever you see the photo, 昔の記憶が蘇る. The memories of the past are relived. So you can see that the first action, looking at the photo, whenever that thing happens, the next thing also happens. Whenever you look at a photo, you are reminded of past memories. And so that's exactly how it's being used here in this sentence. Whenever she wears it, talking about the materia, 安心できる. She can feel relieved. So wearing it makes her feel relieved. Whenever she wears it, 安心できる. She feels relieved. And then finishing off with し, which is just kind of adding a list. So whenever I, wear it, I feel good, and my mother left it for me. お母さんが残してくれた. So お母さん is the word for a mother. Ga is the particle showing the kind of doer of an action. So her mother did something. What did she do? 残してくれた. So, nokosu is the verb to leave something behind, and this verb is combined with the te kureru grammar point, which means to do for me. So, to leave behind for me. So, to do this, you just simply put the verb in the te form, followed by kureru. Now, the verb that's being used here is nokosu, to leave behind. We use this with object o nokosu. So the object is the thing that we leave behind. Now, in this situation, it's quite clear that Aerith's mother has passed away. The reason why is because she's left behind this object. It would be kind of weird for her to be talking about this sentimental object if her mother just left to go to the shops or something, right? However, it can sometimes just be that, right? For example, if your mother goes to the shops and she left behind a nice lunch for you on the table, you could use nokosu there. That's totally fine. And it's kind of makes sense, right? If you look at lunch, you don't immediately assume that her mother's passed away, but here she's talking about this sentimental item, this piece of thing that's really special to her, and so clearly it's special because her mother's passed away. So, my mother left it for me. お母さんが残してくれた。
身につけてると安心できるし、お母さんが残してくれた。ねえ、せっかくの再会だから少しお話しする？
And then the final piece of language we have in this scene is, hey, it's a long-awaited reunion, so how about we have a little chat? So, ne, hey. So as we know clearly, that's how Aerith kind of gets attention. Ne, hey, sekkaku no. Now, this is a very interesting piece of language. Sekkaku is used to add the feeling that a situation is valuable or desirable and that the speaker does not want to waste that precious situation. So here in these examples, we have sekkaku no yasumi, a precious vacation. So perhaps this person has been long awaiting this vacation. It's really important to them. And so it is sekkaku no yasumi. Or in the second example, we have sekkaku no gochiso. This means a long awaited or a precious feast. So maybe the person hasn't had much yummy food in a really long time and they're starving and they've finally been looking forward to this feast that they're able to eat into. So it is a sekkaku no gochiso. And so the thing that is sekkaku no is saikai. This is the word for a reunion or meeting again. In Japanese, the translation is the happening across again of two people who have been separated for a long time. So it shows that they're meeting again. Sai actually comes from again, and then kai, as we already know, is from meeting. So if you put those two together, we have to meet again, again meeting. So, sekkaku no saikai. Finally being able to meet again. So if we look at this sentence right here, sekkaku no saikai, it's showing that she was actually kind of looking forward to this meeting. This is a meeting that's, oh, finally it's happening and we don't want to waste this opportunity. Dakara, so, want to have a little chat? Skoshi ohanashi suru? So skoshi just means a little bit. Ohanashi is to have a conversation. Hanasu, hanashi, ohanashi, having a chat. And then suru is to do. So let's have a little chat.
ねえ、せっかくの再会だから少しお話しする？
And that is it for the first Japanese Breakdown series video. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this new format. I've been trying to think about how to revive the game breakdown format for a really long time because I absolutely loved it in the Final Fantasy VII Breakdown series. It's a lot of work when you're doing such a huge scale thing, and it also wasn't getting many people watching because it was such a huge thing. So I've been constantly thinking about how can I expand it so we can have a more shorter format as well as touch upon a whole range of different games. And so this is the kind of idea that I've come across where we really focus on a scene. And by doing that, we also get really intimate with the language that is really important with that scene, hopefully building stronger connections in your brain with that piece of language. I know it certainly has for myself. Just making this video, I really have this strong connection of Ochiru. When I think of Ochiru, I think of Cloud falling. When I think of Otosu, I think of him dropping the materia, right? So hopefully these images have really helped you create these strong connections, and hopefully you've enjoyed learning some Japanese along the way. So as I said, this series is going to be covering absolutely any game, absolutely any scene, whatever you're interested in, even scenes that contain spoilers. I can do a kind of spoiler warning and we can do that as well. Totally anything that's interesting, that's what this type of video is all for. And so with this video, we have now kind of set up the 5 pillars that I'm aiming to have this channel be for quite the long foreseeable future. We have the kanji series, the grammar series, the vocab series, the game review series, and the game Breakdown series, each of them serving their own unique purpose, and each of them kind of going over a different section of the Japanese language, so hopefully you get a real balanced learning experience with this channel. So one thing I would like to say is some people might be thinking this series is quite similar to the vocab series. Now, there is a very strong difference between the two. The vocab series is all about collecting as many vocab as we can. The goal of that series is to collect all of the JLPT. I mean all of it, right? So we're looking at just getting all that numbers, writing it all down, collecting all that data so that you can study the words through video games in a fun way. It's really JLPT focused. This series is more about getting a really strong contextual understanding of the Japanese, making really strong connections with how the language is used, when it's not used, things like that. So this is really more of the lesson style video that I feel is just missing on the channel, that I'm really happy doing these kind of breakdown videos, so hopefully you guys enjoy it as well. And hopefully you find this kind of video useful and enjoyable for your Japanese studies. Let me know if you find this easier to remember some things, or if not, please feel free to leave any comments. And if you know any interesting cool game scenes that you want to see covered in any of your favorite games, please leave them in a comment down below, and it might give me an idea of what to cover next. I will be covering the Final Fantasy VII series by this series. I'll also be covering absolutely any other game as well. So it's not just a Final Fantasy VII Remake series thing, it's literally anything. But I think this might be a more fun way to approach the Final Fantasy VII series, because right now we have Chapter 5, Chapter 6, Chapter 7 is like super boring. Whereas doing this, we can skip all the boring stuff, go straight to the interesting stuff and the stuff that you want to see. So let me know what you think. I'm always open to hearing your thoughts, suggestions and everything. I'm just trying to make learning Japanese as fun as possible, so please feel free to leave any comments that you'd like and chat with me anytime. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Hopefully you had fun learning Japanese here with Game Gengo. As always, I want to say an enormous thank you to everyone for all of your support of the channel. Thank you for everyone for liking and subscribing. It's so great to see you guys, grow and grow and grow. We're almost at 10,000. Almost. What? 10,000? Oh my god. I never even thought we'd even get to 10,000. I thought it was such a niche idea. To see so many people enjoy it is just amazing. So thank you so much, guys, for enjoying the content. If you want to see more, please consider liking, subscribing, hitting that bell notification to get updates whenever a new video comes out. And if you really love this kind of video, consider joining us on Patreon and then becoming a member of the Game Gengo Discord community, where we learn Japanese with each other. We have fun, play games, chat. It's kind of the place where I'm always hanging out. So if you ever need to contact me or just want to chill and talk with me, I'm always hanging around, talking on Discord with chat and playing games together and helping each other with study. So it's a really fun and close, tight-knit community. So if you want to learn Japanese with a bunch of like-minded people who love Japanese video games, consider joining us on Patreon. So an enormous thank you to all of the Patreon supporters. Thank you so much, guys, for all of your support. I'm so glad that you're enjoying the content and enjoying the passion that I'm really pouring into these videos and this project, and kind of the bigger scale picture that I'm looking at achieving with this channel. So eventually we'll have covered all of the Japanese, and one day, hopefully close to all of the Japanese that you need to know will actually be available here in a very fun and accessible format to learn with. So as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all again in the next video. See ya.